G'day, Justin Hogg here from RightSource, talking all things governance and not-for-profits in the great outdoors. And when we're talking about governance, it's interesting. I talked to a number of clients and organizations who aren't clients about the difference between governance and compliance, and they're not necessarily the same thing. They have some overlap, obviously, but there's two different sort of mindsets that come with that. So if you're looking at a compliance mindset, quite often that's when you'll say things like, oh, the law says, or the industry body says that this is what we have to do. So it's about having to do something. Governance tends to be a bit more about, well, if we do this, we protect ourselves, or if we do this, things will work better. If you do this, we won't have a problem. They're two very different mindsets. One really good example that's come up a bit lately for not-for-profits is a question of, well, do I have to keep my company details up to date on ASIC, even though I'm on ACCC? And quite often, what I've heard people say back to me is, oh no, you're on ACCC, so you don't need to keep ASIC up to date, so you can just let that go. To me, that's the compliance answer. Yes, that's correct. If you're on ACCC, you no longer need to keep your ASIC details up to date, and that's completely fine. However, if you look on both ASIC and ACCC sites, there is a description of some stuff that has to still be done on ASIC that you can't do on ACCC. For example, if you want to change your business name, if you want to deregister your business, if you want to buy another business name under the company, those things can only be done on ASIC. So there's a list of things that can only be done on ASIC. So as much as, no, you don't have to keep ASIC up to date, there are still some things that do have to be done on ASIC. The other thing that's interesting with that as well is that there are some processes that still require ASIC, even though as a not-for-profit you can go, oh, well, we don't have to keep our details updated on ASIC. For example, some banks with their anti-money laundering processes that they've got internal to their institution, one of their steps is to confirm directors on ASIC. Now, this is a broad policy that's supposed to cover the entire process. Some banks don't have an option to check ACCC, so that then means that if you're trying to update signatories on a bank account or set up a bank account, the only place they'll look is ASIC. Even if you've got ACCC up to date and you've done all the right things, you won't be able to, opening that bank account will be painful and will take time. Similarly, if you're dealing with courts, they can quite often be a process where they automatically go to ASIC to check your detail, not ACCC. And so they can slow the process down, and these highly charged processes where things are really trying to happen quickly, you just want it to run smoothly. And lastly, just recently, we've come across a few instances where the NDIS actually requires ASIC to have been updated, which has a big implication for not-for-profits because a lot of not-for-profits are working under the NDIS framework. So to quote one of my staff members, you don't need ASIC up to date until you need it. And when you need it quickly. So my recommendation to anyone operating in the not-for-profit space where you're registered on ACCC is that though you do not need to keep ASIC up to date, as a good process from a governance perspective, when you're updating your details on ACCC, update the same details in ASIC. Have it as the same process. It takes 5 minutes and then it's done and then it's up to date. And that way, when you do need ASIC to be up to date and when someone does need to do a search on your organization through ASIC, even though it's not required to be there, it is there and it smooths the path and it just lets everything work easier. And that's really what governance should be about. It should be about allowing your organization to just flow and operate seamlessly. So that's a little example in terms of governance and compliance, but also a bit of information as well about those who are not-for-profit registered with the ACCC and whether you should keep your details updated with ASIC. If you liked the video today, there's other videos on YouTube in the not-for-profit space like this, giving little tips and guidelines in terms of how you can run your not-for-profit or how company secretaries can help your not-for-profit. So definitely check that out. Feel free to subscribe to keep up to date with videos as they come along. And if you've got any comments or questions, chuck them in the comments below. Look me up on LinkedIn. Happy to answer any questions you might have to ask and just help you in your journey and in your not-for-profit. Otherwise, thanks for your time. It's been Justin Hogg from RightSource.